Good morning. Welcome to the King's Reports News Hour for the 16th year of Chungi, the leap 6th month, and the 18th day of the heavenly calendar. Yes, I can do it if I say it slowly. Let's look around what's going on in the kingdom right now. In Chongchong, Tennessee, we have 67 degrees, mostly clear. Getting up to 85 today, humid with some sun and thunderstorm in spots this afternoon. 67 for a low tonight, mainly clear and humid. Father's hometown, Cheongju, North Pyongan Province in Korea, currently 86 and clear. 67 for a low tonight. Tomorrow, mainly partly sunny and remaining very warm, high of 88. And in Northeast Pennsylvania at the Cheongung Palace, currently 57 and a high of 89 today, partly to mostly sunny and very warm. And tonight, low of 59 under clear skies. And at the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, currently 74 degrees and clear, getting up to 94 today, sunshine and a few clouds and thunderstorm in spots this afternoon. Tonight, clear and humid, low of 73. Suncheon Palace in Korea, currently 73 and cloudy and actually raining, it looks like. Rain for at least 60 minutes, getting down to 71 tonight. Heavy rain developing during the night, and tomorrow rain, high of 76. At the Gunma Palaces in Japan, raining there as well. In fact, heavy rain advisory is out there, and light rain currently, 81 degrees, and getting down to 75 degrees tonight. Cloudy and humid with showers. Tomorrow, cloudy and humid with a couple of showers around, mainly late in the day, high of 85. At Ilan in Taiwan, 87 degrees currently, under sunny skies, some sun, then increasing clouds and humid, occasional rain this afternoon. Oops, I'm sorry, I should have updated this. Okay, yes, 87 degrees and clear, and getting down to 78 tonight, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, variable cloudiness with a brief shower or two in the afternoon, high of 95. And let me show you this weather map, because right now there is a typhoon that is approaching Taiwan, and it looks like it is going to hit Taiwan broadside, basically. And that's expected to happen on the 13th, 06 Zulu, which is Zulu is Universal Time Coordinated, UTC, or what we used to call Greenwich Mean Time. So this would be anyway in Taiwan time. They are 8 hours ahead, so that would be 2 o'clock in the afternoon for Taiwan, where the, of course, you know about the cone, right? This is the projected sort of probability path of the cone of the center of the typhoon, and so the effects of the typhoon will be felt in a wide area around that. But it looks like it's going to maybe pass right over the island, the center of the typhoon, the eye of the typhoon, pass right over the island on its way to mainland China. So let's hope that everyone there is safe. Let's pray that everyone there can be safe through this event, and that they can prepare. They can spend today and tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, preparing for this event that is coming upon them. Okay. All right. So that is the weather. Let's go to Father's Word, and we are here in the book on the path of the person of the completed Testament age. And let me get some light on this. Maybe I can actually have a, ooh, that's not plugged in. Okay. All right. I guess I have to use this after all. Okay. So the path of the person of the completed Testament age. I'm in section 3. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, yeah. Final paragraph in section 3 of chapter 2, section 3. So it is the person who loves the true grandparents, loves the true parents, loves the true children, loves the true family, loves the true nation, and loves the true universe that will go to heaven. That will be the model textbook. When we consider this, and when we think of God, this will be our eternal future. When we love God and say, my love goes towards the future, then it will be the eternal future. April 5th, 1987. All right. Praise God. Okay, yes. I don't know if any of you saw this UPI story on the situation with Hak Ja Han in Korea, the Family Federation in Korea. Anyway, they put out a story, on August 7th. And see if they credited this story. Okay, I have a guy named Kim Yong-jun writing for them, it looks like. Anyway, their report is not as detailed as mine, but near the end, they have a sort of a history, sort of background, right? As reporters often do. And it says here, first there's a paragraph that says, founded in 1954 by the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, Unification Church was once promoted a vision, global spiritual unity, da 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 da. In the next paragraph, in 1998, Moon, in other words, True Father, publicly designated his third son, Hyunjin Preston Moon, as his spiritual and organizational successor. In your dreams. Yeah, and the thing is that they don't even put a little blurb in there about how, UPI happens to be owned by the Global Peace Federation, or whatever it is they call themselves. And the head of that is, of course, the said third son, Hyunjin Preston Moon. So they're spreading total propaganda, and it's unfortunate. UPI was once a very one of the most reputable news media outlets in the world. They're famous for having scooped the world on the assassination of President Kennedy. And they were the first to report the assassination of President Kennedy. And there's a whole story about how that happened. But UPI has, gone through difficulties, and his father wanted to purchase that, wanted Dong Won-ju to purchase that around, what would that have been, 2006 or 7 or something like that. But anyway, the Preston Moon folks have been doing their best to spread this idea that he is the designated and legitimate successor to True Father. And they ignore, of course, the fact that not only is this not true, but Father instructed him to return all the assets that he had taken and is currently using to promote himself. Anyway, we know that righteousness will win out in the end. And so right now we are not, aside from making this correction here through the King's Report, I'm not going to dwell on this, just to make sure, though, that people hear that, it's not true. Okay. Anyway, just in case some of you might have seen that article. If you didn't, that's fine. That's fine. All right, let's see. Let's go now to what's actually happening in the real world, not in someone's fantasy world. And let's see here. So this week, of course, the big thing is that there's going to be a meeting between Trump and Putin on Friday. And that's kind of important, as you might imagine. It is kind of an important meeting that they're going to have. And a lot of people are hopeful for it. A lot of people are worried about it. They think that President Trump is going to sell Ukraine down the river. We'll see what this happens, but we still don't know exactly where in Alaska it's going to be. Perhaps that's for security reasons. This is Monday, right? So they've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So I'm sure they must have decided on a place by now. I assume that's for security reasons that they're not telling us where it's going to be within the huge state of Alaska. Right? My idea, hey, have it on the Diomedes Island. right? I have it on Diomedes Island. That is the most remote place. So remote, actually, that they would have to borrow someone's living room to have the meeting. But hey, that's okay. That's okay. Or there may be some sort of a police station or something like that there. I don't know, maybe a Coast Guard station. Anyway, American officials are rushing to finalize details ahead of the Friday summit between Presidents Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in Alaska, with both logistical and geopolitical issues still unsettled 4 days ahead of the momentous sit-down. Well, this is CNN, but yeah, I agree. It is a momentous sit-down. It reminds me of the sort of the Reykjavik summit of 1986 between President Reagan and President Gorbachev, or Soviet leader Gorbachev. They say he was Soviet premier, according to this. Anyway, he was also General Secretary of the Communist Party, I believe. So he was actually he was the leader of the Soviet Union then, and that was over arms control. But it's sort of, I think that the Reykjavik summit sort of got the ball rolling towards the dissolution of the Soviet Empire. It was kind of a watershed event, I think, in the eyes of many people. And I'm sure Putin is aware of this, and he blames Gorbachev. Putin blames Gorbachev for the fall of the Soviet Communist Party and the Soviet Union, the Soviet Empire. And so I'm sure he's sort of looking at what mistakes may have been made by Gorbachev, in his view, at the Reykjavik summit, and wants to make sure he doesn't make similar mistakes in Alaska. Of course, that also was held sort of halfway between the United States and the Soviet Union, between Washington and Moscow. But this time they decided to go the other direction and do it in Alaska. And I think the reason is pretty clear. The summit had to be held either in Russia, which Trump cannot go to, so that's out, either in Russia or in a country that is not a signatory to the International Criminal Court, because the ICC has issued an arrest warrant for President Putin. And he can go to a country that is a signatory, which he did. He went to Mongolia last year, I think it was, and Mongolia got a lot of blowback from the international community for that. So that would be too much trouble. So it has to be held in a country that is not a signatory to the ICC treaty, and the United States is not, as I think we mentioned, I think yesterday or late last week, I think. The United States is not a signatory. So basically it has to be held in the United States. And if it's going to be held in the US, then Alaska is the natural choice. It's kind of halfway. And hey, guess what? This used to be your land. It's our land now. Ha ha ha. That sort of thing as well. I don't know if Putin is so worried about that, but there are people in Russia who do wish that they could get Alaska back. Anyway, as of Monday, no venue for the summit had been announced. Administration officials were still making their way to Alaska. Making their way to Alaska. What are they driving? Making their way to Alaska. Selected for its centrality to Washington and Moscow to scope out where exactly the US and Russian presidents would meet. Officials were also working to clarify contours of the two men's expected discussion, which Trump hopes can yield significant progress toward ending the war in Ukraine. And we do too. The uncertainty surrounding the summit as the week opened underscored the extraordinary moment Trump finds himself in 7 months into his second term. After entering office hoping to leverage his relationship with Putin to end the Ukraine war, only to become disillusioned by the Russian president's duplicity, Trump is now embarking on the biggest test yet of his long-held faith in face-to-face diplomacy. Well, he's a negotiator. And so, yes, I'm sure he does have faith in face-to-face negotiations and diplomacy. Next Friday will be important because it will be about testing Putin. How serious he is on bringing this terrible war to an end, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who has forged a close partnership with Trump, said Sunday on ABC. Trump has told advisors in private that any attempt to end the war is worth the effort even if it isn't ultimately successful. He pressed his team to organize this week's meeting with extraordinary speed. Typically, high-profile summits, particularly with adversaries like Russia, take weeks or months to plan. A number of questions hang over the preparations. And, I think I really feel that this is President Trump's month, as I've mentioned. And if he pushes forward, and if he listens to his instincts and pushes forward, I think he's going to achieve a lot more during this summit than even he hopes for. That's sort of hopeful belief and faith, I acknowledge, but there is such a thing as spirit world, and I think he's got spirit world on his side right now, and he just needs to have faith in himself and in the God that saved his life in Butler, Pennsylvania, and I think he's going to do very, very well. Anyway, let's see what questions CNN can list here. One is whether Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky would be invited. He wasn't mentioned when Trump announced the meeting last week. The White House hasn't ruled out including him in Alaska, but officials said their priority was organizing the Trump-Putin one-on-one. And Putin has said no, that he's not going to meet with Trump if Zelensky is there. So sort of as a kind of a compromise or plan B situation, Trump may meet Zelensky, could potentially meet Zelensky before he meets Putin, somewhere. It could be in another location in Alaska, or it could be, he could bring Zelensky to Washington, although I wish he would not do that. Zelensky was invited to Washington by Biden, and they even had him speak to a joint session of Congress, and Pelosi was holding out the Ukrainian flag, and it was really, really an ugly situation. So we don't want a repeat of that kind of situation at all. So I think not the East Coast, but someplace else. Alaska is fine. West Coast is fine. But I think that would be sort of one way of showing Putin that he cannot dictate what the president does. If he thinks that this is the best scenario to invite Zelensky, then he will do that. The U.S. ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, told Dana Bash on CNN's State of the Union, the meeting's happening on Friday. There's time to make that decision. Ukrainian officials made clear Zelensky was prepared to travel to Alaska if invited by Trump, but they also acknowledged much would hinge on how the Trump-Putin meeting unfolds. We have shown that he is ready to be anywhere to advance the agenda of